as you walk in, if you're new, I want you to just think about, hey, you're taking some time to be awesome. You're taking some time for peace. You're taking some time for your inner strength, your inner greatness. If you're there on the live stream, as each one of us walks in, please just make your own self getting ready to make this a special time. All right, so welcome everybody. I wanted to make tonight about the awesome synergy that you can get when you combine mindfulness with brain programming. To those of you who've been coming regularly, I hope you get a feel for what those two ideas are. If you're brand new or new to my sessions, we're also going to go into what I mean by those. But a quick overview, mindfulness is like learning to watch the mind, to still the mind, to concentrate and choose what you're going to focus on. And brain programming is training yourself. What do you choose to feel? What habits do you want to grow? What feelings do you want to grow? And combining watching your mind with training your mind is just, as far as I'm concerned, it's a superpower that I want to give to all of humanity. So that's our theme for tonight. Let's all grab a seat, and we're going to jump straight into our opening meditation. I'll be checking the live stream from now to every now and then, so if you're out there and want to type in, I hope I'll see you and that you'll also feel like you're here with us. Yeah. Okay. So I invite everybody just to get comfortable. And has everybody meditated before? Excellent. All right. So I'm just feeling the warmth of the VR headset on my face. And as I focus on that, I let my eyes feel warm. I let them close. And feeling my face and the weight of the VR, I just adjust my posture and find a way that feels really relaxed down through my neck and down through my whole body. If you're watching this over the live stream, I just invite you to do the same thing, but instead of feeling the weight of the VR, just let your eyes close and feel a sense of serenity and peace through the muscles in your face. And then as you take a relaxing breath, feel that into your shoulders and into your spine. And I just want you to notice how wild it is that your attention can move. I could talk about seeing the planet Earth from outer space, and you see the planet, you've seen that picture before. Maybe your imagination's really vivid and you feel like you're in a spaceship looking down. You're feeling the atmosphere. But then straight after that, I could say, feel your fingers and take a relaxing breath and feel the fingers relax. How wildly your attention can move, and so your entire experience can change. And then if I tell you to listen to the music of the temple, and some of you may have noticed the flutes, or some of you may have noticed the gentleness or the relaxing quality of it. It's amazing how much our attention can move and transform our moment-to-moment experience. And so if you've just arrived, we're just doing a meditation. So I invite everybody to settle down a little more into the meditation. As you close your eyes or you imagine your inner mind becoming a little more still, we'll just take a few peaceful breaths and let your focus be in feeling the breath, feeling your mind and body becoming calm and still. And I hope for everybody, seeing that just a few relaxing breaths can relax you a little, that you become wildly curious. How good could you feel? The depths of peace, stillness, or profound, beautiful feelings that are in your body and mind. And each breath you take, just letting yourself settle a little deeper into that magic that's inside of you. We started the meditation by seeing how we could move our attention to outer space or to our fingers or to our breath. It's amazing how you can move your attention. So I invite you to really watch your attention coming into your breath and be in that point in your nose where you can feel the breath coming in and out. You can also move your attention through time. You could be remembering what happened today or yesterday or last year. But I invite you to choose to be in the present moment. Put your attention in that point where the breath is coming in and out. Put your attention into right now and right now. And just watch how you can hold your attention there and make this moment, make every moment captivating, soothing, and beautiful. Now, when people talk about mindfulness, it can mean a few different things. For some of them, they're talking about being able to watch every little moment of your awareness. And imagine if you had just mastered that completely. You're holding your attention on the breath, and every little nuance of your consciousness, you were just focusing more and more like laser-powered concentration. And everything else, awesome. You've just become more aware of your mind and you're more able to concentrate it. And what I just described brings up two aspects. One is noticing what your mind's doing, but also noticing the little nuances, the whole of your subconscious, seeing every bit of your mind just because you've looked so closely. And the other aspect that brought up was being able to focus all of those aspects. Right now we're choosing to be fully in the breath, but you could also contemplate making your entire consciousness into peace, or into confidence, or into feeling awesome. But just for now, you're bringing all your attention into the breath. No need to create anything, just bringing all your attention into feeling and hearing the breath. And you could let yourself conceptualize or imagine if you mastered this through every moment of your life. You would notice every attitude, every image, everything within yourself. Anything that doesn't serve you awesomely, instantly just let go of it. Always choosing where to put your focus, right down to the finest little detail, how your focus feels. And I invite you to bring your attention more fully just into the breath and feeling this sense of mastery of attention. Each moment that you are aware, each moment that you choose to be focusing on the breath, it's like you're practicing to be aware and direct your attention in every part of your life. So notice there's two aspects of what we might have been just doing. One is noticing your attention. And you may also have noticed what it is to bring your focus where you choose. If your mind started to do something else, you come back to the breath. You let go of the other thing. You let the other thing become still or fade away. Or perhaps laser-like focus back to that point of breath. The other thing just disappears. So this idea of mindfulness as attention and focus. This stillness, this letting go. Now, some people find that if they meditate regularly on just letting all mental activity go, they'll find this bubbling up of joy or of kindness or of goodness, just these wells of awesomeness just emerge within them. But ultimately, if we're just letting go of the things that don't serve us, letting the mind be still and choosing where to focus, just leaving all your strength, all your goodness. So I'd like you to also consider the synergy or the helpfulness that would come from, as well as noticing your mind and letting go of what doesn't help you, practicing and creating the ways that you'd like to be. Whether that's practicing being better at your sport or your art by visualizing and rehearsing how you move. Whether that's practicing feeling loving and kind and compassionate or confident, playful or expressive. Or whether that's practicing having a really kind attitude to yourself, to be encouraging, to be warm to yourself, to say to myself, hey, I'm awesome, to appreciate the things about myself. Whether it's practicing feelings, feeling okay, feeling peace, feeling equanimity, feeling confidence, feeling compassion, feeling awesome. And if you just take a moment to reflect every aspect of your life, how you feel, how you act, how you talk, your skill levels at different things, the attitudes you have, your reaction to every different situation, all of these different aspects of life, every one of those things is something you could be mindful of, and it's also something where you could be creative and rehearse to either be more enriched or create a completely different feeling or behavior. So I just invite you to breathe and imagine this mastery of awareness and creativity. Let's juice this meditation up a little bit. You could start by imagining yourself in whatever kind of feeling would be most invigorating right now. Whatever you could glimpse, whether it's happiness or expressiveness or feeling awesome or inspired or loving. Just tapping into or creating the most awesome version of you. And know that every time you set that intention, you'll feel it more, you'll be it more. And in a moment, we're going to move from the meditation into our discussion. But I want you just to reflect, how epically or seriously did you take this idea of you being the master of your consciousness, the complete creator, the writer of your own scripts, mastering mindfulness? Every moment, this nuanced awareness, letting go of anything that's not awesome, infusing wonderful feelings into each moment, practicing and creating who you'd most like to be. So as we prepare for the discussion, I invite you to do two things. One is dream a little bigger. Envisage yourself as this enlightened being, as this happy, wonderful, awesome being. Bring it into the present. I want you to feel it now, to be it now and forever. So as much as you're able to envisage that, embody that. And the other thing I'd like you to do is just think, what kind of questions would you like to ask? What discussion could we have that would help you most, that would make this as helpful, as applicable as possible? This session is for you, and you making this as real and as powerful as possible is what's helpful for everybody else too. If you have many questions, look within. Which questions, which aspects of focus or attitude or philosophy or values will be most empowering, most helpful? If there's a million paths from here to my best self, which pathways will get there the straightest, the fastest, the clearest? Let's walk that path together today. So if you're still feeling quite meditative, just let yourself soak that up. And for those of you who've just arrived in the temple or the live stream, our theme for today is the synergy between mindfulness or watching our mind and being able to rehearse or create new habits, new feelings, new attitudes. I want to also add to that, I've been in many different schools or movements where mindfulness, they say that over time you can calm things. But no, I am proposing that the instant that you're aware, you can come into your breath. The instant you come into your breath, you can let go of feelings or attitudes that don't serve you. I've also been around brain programming or cultivation movements where they describe it, they encourage people to think of it as a very slow, long process. I want to encourage you to envisage as awesome as possible. Just stepping into whatever state of mind or feeling that you'd like. And yes, it's a lifelong process of continuing to grow and blossom and expand and being as awesome as you can in new and hopefully more enriching environments. Yes, but I want you to be excited about bringing that into the present moment as much as possible. So there's this synergy of watching your mind closely and training how you would like to be and feel, that I propose that just putting focus and excitement into that each day is one form of enlightenment, of liberation, that it can bring you bliss and compassion and excitement and power that's beyond what most people are even able to imagine. So if anyone has a nice feeling or moment that you'd like to share from the meditation, please do before we dive into our questions and discussions. And otherwise, if anyone has any questions about the topic from the meditation, please, let's, as I said, let's make this awesome for you. 1%?
Yeah, I have a question. So, in terms of building new habits and really being conscious of what we're doing, um, I guess my question is that when you experience strong urges to, let's say, in my case, watch YouTube videos mindlessly, or using cannabis, or uh, just wasting time, how do you get out of these habits and into uh, ones that really serve your life?
It's a great question. And there's multiple parts to this answer. One part of it is if you're watching your mind very, very closely, when the urge to go and watch some media arises, you can get to the point where you start to feel it coming on before you're like, oh, I want to watch it. Or perhaps you've opened your computer and the tab's there and you see your brain going, just watch it. You see that before you're like really feeling it. And so before your brain gets caught up in all the other feelings, you're able to go, hang on, no, I don't want that whole part of me to get activated. And then you've stopped, you've come back into that moment. And as soon as you're in that mindfulness, you then get to choose what will be helpful for me. Now, I encourage everybody to practice single-pointed breathing meditation every day. Practice watching your mind so closely that you are just really good at creating that gap between something arising in your mind and you following it. So every little moment that you come back to the breath, you've intercepted your mind doing some other thing. And every time you practice that, you're better at noticing your mind wanting to do something, like watch a video or react some way. You're better at noticing it and then having this space of interception or space of awareness before you get caught up into it. So, I said today is about the synergy between mindfulness and brain programming. So I've just looked at the mindfulness approach to what you just said. If you're practicing and you're empowering your mindfulness in each moment, that can intercept those unhelpful behaviors. Now, the other side of that is, what about the moments where you're not being mindful? What about the moments where the other habits just kicked in, or the other feelings just kicked in, all of these autopilots that are running in our mind? So one thing I would suggest is to create awesome autopilots and make them so strong that they've just taken over. If you visualize yourself as being really interested in stuff that you love to do, so when you open your computer, you just really want to do this stuff that's so actually important, that's more captivating than some video, it's more engaging and it's more fun, and you love to do that. And if each day you think about that and you see yourself being pumped up about that, when you open your computer, that's what you want to do. And it'll be just so much more interesting than some random video. And that might sound great, and you might be saying yes. And for some of you might be saying, well, that's easier said than done. And yes, I want you to say it and feel it and practice that often enough that, it becomes automatic. You may also like to practice what it is to just close a video 1 minute in, or to say no to some friends who've offered you something that's not helpful. Even after you've said yes, you'd be like, actually no, I've changed my mind. Like, practice these escape hatch behaviors. That may be helpful, but I'd focus mainly on the real behaviors that you want to have that will drive your life where you want it to go. And you can juice that up by letting yourself imagine, what if you spent a decade doing the good stuff you want to do, whatever that is, whatever you like, and compare that to if you spent a decade with those other behaviors, and just really see how much better one of the paths is, and then let yourself feel that more and bring that attitude into the now. Like, hey, wow, I really want to do the creative things I want to do. I really want to get my mind feeling clear and fresh and vibrant and focused. Do you have any follow-up questions or thoughts?
No, not for now.
Are excellent. So I just want to wrap that up with this. I mentioned that today's about the synergy between mindfulness and brain programming. So I mentioned practicing mindfulness, watching your mind, being able to intercept before your mind runs away with those behaviors. And then I talked about brain programming, practicing the attitudes that will help you, saying, hey, I love to do these creative things. I want to spend my time on good stuff. I am healthy. I love making healthy choices. And visualize it. What is it to be healthy, to be clear, to have a crystal clear mind? You visualize it and you say it and you rehearse it multiple times a day, every day, for weeks until it's just become you. So I've now talked about mindfulness and brain programming, but I also want to talk about the synergy of that. Look very closely at the brain programs that aren't helping you. And you'll probably notice that there are many. So if you've got friends that you have some unhealthy habits with, there's probably some brain program about the feeling of chilling with them. Or you've probably got some attitude of this reminds me of those good old times. Or you probably have some attitude you have about life in relation to the not healthy habit. And if you look, you'll see there's many different brain programs that lead you on that old behavior. And so you could go through carefully and mindfully reprogram each one of those. What would be an awesome attitude about my friends when they want to do unhealthy stuff? How do I want to respond in a way that's great for all of us? This attitude that I have about my time, what would be an awesome way of thinking about my time? This attitude I have about some other part. Look closely at the different scripts you have in your mind, and every one of them, it's an exciting possibility to intercept mindfully and create and practice some new way of being awesome. Now, I was mostly talking then about responding to media that's not so helpful. Talked a little bit about unhealthy habits, but I hope for everybody you could think about some aspects of your life where there's either a behavior that's not as good and you want to stop it or start something else, or maybe just some other area of your life where there's not a bad behavior, but you just want to have some more good behaviors. Maybe you want to work out more, or maybe you want to tell people that you care about them more, or maybe you want to just be more relaxed or more happy around certain people. So 1%, they were great questions, practical. I hope the answers were actionable and made sense. And please, if even today, if you have some time to mull over it and you have any follow-up questions, please do. And I want to reiterate for everybody, particularly you, if anything I just said about the practicing sounded like a good idea, please try later today rehearsing it. Say to yourself, hey, I love being healthy. I love my mind feeling clear. I love my body feeling great. I love my lungs feeling excellent. And just say that to yourself a few times. And then do it and feel it into your body. And visualize saying no thanks to people who offer unhealthy things to you. Go through and rehearse it. And then do it again sometime within the next 6 hours. And actually go through and rehearse it and make it feel better and stronger and better and stronger. And when you actively go through and practice the change that you've chosen, then you can also start to mindfully watch. Hey, this part of my practice is feeling pretty good and effective. Oh, but there's this other part of me that's nah, I'm just going to do that other thing. And then put your mindfulness into that part and be okay, this is a bit that I want to make more strong, more awesome, more healthy, more purposeful. So watch carefully as you reprogram and cultivate. It's the synergy of mindfulness and brain programming. Doing both practices. Keep watching, keep practicing. Fluffy Puppy, is that a question?
No, I was just messing around with my hair.
Okay, cool. Good to have you
Sorry.
back. 1%, any follow-ups or anybody else? Chef is back.
You know, when you say those things, I feel like I also have to remind myself to shake myself sober. I think I already mentioned this before, but it kind of reminds me of not getting so caught up with things, and I guess I have to keep reminding myself that I don't need to get caught up in this like I in this chaos, I guess, or this tranquility where I don't have to put up the fight where like with the things that you said, like noticing when there's like a behavior that you don't really want to do and stuff like that, and there could be a lot of distress, but it kind of, I guess it's like I think about this when I'm thinking about just maybe if it's like differing opinions or like anything like that, or just anything that causes like some sort of a emotional response, that I don't have to get so caught up in things, and then I could just kind of lay myself back down. It's like whenever it's almost like sometimes hearing a bad argument for maybe a good answer for some things, and it kind of reminds me of that because of I get sometimes I kind of just I realize that I'm reacting to this for some other reason, or I guess I have to remind myself of how do I steel man basically their argument, where what would make sense in their position, or whatever thing that they're thinking about. And it kind of helps a lot with compulsion behavior as well, where if there's something that you feel very compulsive to do, it can really help change that kind of behavior that you were describing, where it's like habit changing and stuff like that. And some of the stuff that you like, yeah, I guess it has helped me in the past too with anything I feel compulsive about. But yeah, it's kind of like that sobering feeling where you just keep remembering that. It kind of reminds me of this thing about this poet who I feel like he had two solutions to his problem, where he was on a plane and he lost a pen that was like really important to him, and you like sign autographs with that too, and you would like he'd write a lot of poems with it, and it like fell in between like a really inconvenient spot, and it went into like this thing where you would have to like disassemble the chair, and at first he was thinking like, I think he was thinking like, oh, it's just a pen, like it's not really that big of a deal or something like that, but then he started thinking about how regretful he'd be if he just lost his pen like this. If he could keep looking for it or keep finding it. And he eventually he was like the last one on the plane, and then the attendants came up to him asking him if he needed help with something, and he said that he needed help with his pen, and it got to the point where the attendant said like, well, we would need to get like an engineer to disassemble the chair if like we want to go any further. And then he went even further. He was like, okay, yes, I'll do that, yeah. And then eventually the engineer came, and he disassembled the chair, and he finally found it, and he felt so happy about it. Felt so thankful about finding this pen. It was like, yes. But then he realized, oh my god, what are you doing? It's just a pen. This is just this is really nothing. this isn't really that big of a deal. And there feels like there was two solutions to his problem here, where he felt he could have went, "Ah, this isn't really that big of a deal," or something like that, and he could have just went on and lost this like really memorable, really I guess like I think it was also pricey pen. It was like a little memorial or like token of all the things that he's written and people that he talked to. But then there's this also this part where I could just I should just give it a, like I should just keep trying, or I could just keep going, or and it's hard to say what is the most appropriate action here, because there's two solutions where, oh, I'm willing to try until I hit some sort of foreseeable roadblock where I'm gonna try as far as I can get away with, or there's this point where you could also let go, and this feels very related to I guess anytime we feel insulted too, where we could kind of let things go, or we could kind of try to see or discourage something, I guess. And there's these two solutions to these things.
I'd love
But
to
it's
make
hard to
some
get.
responses. I mean, the story you just gave is a really good example of attachment. When in life are we attached, and when does that serve us, and when does it not? So yeah, being mindful of when our attachments help us is really good. But yeah, I wanted to say, you mentioned like obsessing over things. I mean, if there's anything I'd hope you'd obsess over would be practicing mindfulness and practicing cultivating helpful states of mind. If you had your focus just always on empowering yourself and feeling great, I think that would enrich every one of us. And then I wanted to go back one step further when you were talking about like being caught up in the chaos, or like stepping out and being able to navigate around the chaos. And this idea of brain programming or rehearsing, you're saying, hey, you could see the benefit in training yourself to be able to like respond well to the chaos and the confrontations. So the thing I wanted to say there was, hey, if you're the brain programmer, if you get to write your own scripts, I encourage everybody to try and phrase it or feel into it in the most empowering, helpful way possible. So rather than, hey, I'm better at dealing with the chaos, you could empower it as, you could say it in a way that feels really empowering. Like, whatever happens, I am strong and present. Or like, I feel stronger when confronted with other people's stuff. Or I always have more strength and focus and resolve than I need to. So I was basically saying, if I understood you correctly, I was basically saying the same kind of thing. Like, I can handle the chaos, but I was saying it in a way that hopefully sounded more empowered. So I invite everybody to do that. As you're thinking about the attitudes and behaviors you're going to create, try and imagine like the best response you can, the ideal response you're going to have. You can practice anything, so you may as well practice the feeling or attitude that's as helpful as possible. And I mentioned just before, I'd love everybody to be obsessed about mindfulness and brain programming. So I know that for some people, obsession can be a difficult thing. So I don't want to say that too lightly. But I do definitely want to say that if you're spending hours a day of meditation and brain programming, it's going to be wildly enriching for your life. So I almost never see someone who takes their mind and their feelings and their consciousness as seriously as I think we should. So yeah, if you're going to be just obsessing over the optimal state of mind, well, I'm going to be careful. Obsessing can have a lot of not helpful connotations. But if you're going to be excited and like putting your attention and your focus and your creativity into feeling great, and you're going to love doing breathing and stillness meditation every day, maybe every morning and every evening, and you're going to have some positive transformations that you rehearse every day, maybe like 5 or 10 different things you want to change, I think that's awesome. And if you have some tendency to like really go into something, like math problems or something, if you could take the same kind of approach to your own brain training, like make it a superpower. What do you guys think of that? And to those of you out on the live stream, I'd love you to jump in, throw in some comments. Love to hear what you guys think or have you feel part of this session with us. Sigma?
It makes me wonder, when do you really notice a change when people do this regularly? When do you start to see a big change in them at a certain point?
That is such a good question. There are some things, it's possible that one of you today could have an epiphany and you'd be like, oh yeah, that attitude I had about people that made me scared was not helpful. Bang, I choose to be awesome. And they could just feel it and they could go out and just be awesome around people. I've seen instant changes many times. So yeah, the change can be...
I'm sure it varies from person to person, how quickly they adjust to the new ways of thinking and
from
the training, I guess.
From person to person,
vary from person to person.
And also from quality to quality. There might be some things that you come out of today, bang, that are transformed. And there may be some others that may require months of daily visualization. But yeah, in general, my answer to that question is I would encourage people to choose something they want to change and rehearse it 3 times a day for a month or 2. And there were many things that I wanted to change, that trying to say it and feel it, for a week of saying it and trying to feel it, I couldn't even really conceptualize it. It was just so far from where I was. But a week in, I started to glimpse it. And then the second week, I was like, yeah, this is good, kinda. And then the third week, I was like, hey, and I started to see little glimpses of my behavior and my attitudes and my feelings actually changing. And then the fourth week, I was living it. And it was like really embedding itself into my subconscious. So yes, I'd say a month or 2, but also be excited that some things can change really fast. And also be accepting that some things may take longer. But I'd aim for most changes to happen within a month.
Thank you.
And you said it can be different from person to person. I would encourage every one of you to think, if you looked closely enough at your mind and you found the attitude or the feeling that really worked for you, these changes can be faster and more powerful and more easy than you would have thought. So take this approach to yourself of like, hey, I want to bring these changes into the now, and I want to make them feel great, and I want to visualize them like now, what would it be like? And the more excited you feel about it, the more good you feel about it, the more powerful the changes will be. Woo! Sigma, that was a great question. Thank you.
Thank you for teaching us.
So one thing I really like about that question is it makes me point out, I mentioned about rehearsing, saying it to yourself and visualizing it. I do really want every one of you to think of some things you want to transform and try visualizing and rehearsing and saying it at least 3 times a day for a month. And that might be a lot of self-change practice. But at the end of the month, for most of the things you've thought of, you'll be like, wow, that just feels second nature now. And a lot of people never get to see that like flicking of a switch in transforming themselves. And if you flick that switch and change a few things about yourself, at least what happened for me is my whole attitude to myself was transformed. How I felt about how I am in life was just so much more empowered. I things that I thought sucked about me suddenly weren't me anymore. I was like, oh, there's a habit for me to change, and there's another feeling for me to change. So please try flicking your switch and powerfully, dedicatedly transform some things. Because once you've done it about a few things and you just felt so fully that, hey, I was like this and now I really am like this, it's just so liberating for the mind, for the feelings, to know that all the things that you were caught up in, that's not really you. That's just some habit you're in now. And you could flick every one of those switches with a bit of practice and focus and excitement. And if I go back to the topic today of that synergy between mindfulness practice and brain programming, yes, I want every one of you to be passionate, focused, empowered brain programmers. And if you also are practicing mindfulness, watching the mind, watching how you think, as well as practicing and creating these good thoughts, if you notice the feeling or the thought of the old habit, if you're able to intercept it and just like let it lose its power, the speed in which the new good habit just takes over is so much faster. So please be a master mindfulness meditator and a master brain programmer. All right, we've got someone on the live chat. They feel miserable thinking of all the possibilities they're missing out on. They're in a frenzy and they forget to be mindful, and it makes them unhappy. Thanks for being here, Ali, and thanks for sharing. So yes, there are so many possibilities we're missing out on every moment. That is true. The most important possibility that I would propose would be feeling okay in this moment. I invite you to put that as central. Watching your state of mind and making this moment nice. Bringing yourself peace, bringing yourself contentment, happiness. I would say that it's the one thing you're going to have in every one of your moments for the rest of your life is you and your consciousness. It's the most precious thing for you to be excited and passionate about. And, I talked about mindfulness is learning to watch closely every little aspect of your consciousness. Please approach your mind in a way that is kind and gentle and exciting and lovely. If some part of you is like, it knows enlightenment is possible and you've got to get there, but it doesn't feel good, take that awesomeness and rephrase that awesomeness in a way that feels really good. Let yourself imagine how good it would feel. Let yourself enjoy these ideas and concepts. If it's an expectation or some comparison and judgment, that's actually missing the point. I love your enthusiasm. And I hope you can feel in my voice the idea of bringing it into the present. Right now, give yourself some moments of peace and some moments of awareness. Make your well-being in this moment central. And you mentioned this frenzy of forgetting to be mindful, and that makes you unhappy. The moment you think about mindfulness, put mindfulness now. Being unhappy or making that like judgment of the time you were unhappy, that's just more of the unhappy. And we were talking before about brain programming and creating this escape hatch. If someone offers you something unhealthy and you like go along with it, but then you train yourself with like another way of being like, actually I've changed my mind. And I want you to practice this like escape hatch from the unhappy judgment. You think about mindfulness and then you're like, oh, actually I'm changing my mind into peace and happiness right now. And hopefully you've practiced enough that just that idea of, hey, I'm going to be peace and happiness right now, hopefully that's phrased in a way that you can feel it. And if you can't, then I invite you to practice some relaxation meditations, some breathing meditations. Practice that feeling of getting into feeling good. And just enjoy exploring each moment of the breath, each sensation of calm that you find in your body. Just let yourself enjoy them. It can help to think that as you make the journey into enlightenment a beautiful, inviting thing for yourself, you then have more of that to share with others, to enlighten the world, to make that like a gift. It's a beautiful thing. It's a nice, inviting, sweet thing. Right now we can have a moment together where we care about each other, where we get to feel present together. Give yourself as many of those moments as you can. And anytime you notice that you're not, just give yourself gently that thought, I'm going to step into one of these moments. Ali, I'd love to... you say you feel better already. Wonderful. Please keep stepping into those moments. Please keep coming with these wonderful questions. And it's a pleasure to have you here. Would anyone else like to ask a question? Or perhaps share something that it might not be really formed as a question, but just something from your experience from the meditation or the discussion we've had so far. Chef?
Oh, with that last question, where it was being kind of like disappointed about like not being mindful. There's that kind of reminds me of like I guess different ways of looking at things where we're unless we have like some sort of habit formed, we're kind of at the mercy of the next time we remember or something like that. But instead of being kind of disappointed with ourselves about forgetting to be mindful, we could instead feel kind of like delight. And this could be like endless delight actually, because of every time we actually do remember. So instead of feeling kind of disappointed about forgetting, we could feel kind of delighted that we remember again. And we could, now we kind of know, or we realized it now. And we're back to
Mm.
this kind of sobering state. And we could feel kind of just relieved that now we have this another chance. And it's and we could do it again. And every time we forget and we remember, it's just another chance. And then we could feel uh, just delighted that now we remember again.
Thank you. That was a wonderful addition. Ali, I just want to say that if you liked what we said and it made you feel better, perhaps any time that you'd like to remember it, this is going to be there on the live stream, there on our YouTube channel. So you could bookmark that time and go back and watch that little 5-minute mini meditation moment we had together. I mean, it was there just for you, so please relive it as much as you need to. Like Chef is back was saying, it's like this delight. It's a chance to step back into mindfulness, or and so I would like to encourage all of you, if there's ever a moment in these classes that you love, please go and rewatch them or comment on them on the video to like draw more people's attention to those bits that you loved, so that I can see moments that were more helpful. I'll make more of those great moments. And whether it's these videos or whether it's recorded meditation from somewhere else or something you've read, revisiting things that help you is it can be great. I mean, some whole religions are based on just reliving special moments that some of the people had. I find I prefer freshness. I can only relive things for a while before I want to learn something new or enrich things in a new way. But yeah, definitely if a little discussion was great, reliving it a few times can really like let you catch all the nuances or dive back into that feeling that you might have glimpsed for the first time. Askiali, I'd love to hear what's on your mind right now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of difficult, I guess. I have this personal problem with someone who wasn't really nice to me in the past, and this person didn't really even admit it, address it, or let alone made an apology. And yeah, so it's not basically just the words, but I feel yeah, I feel like there was wrongdoing and no justice, and it's really hard to get past this conditioning and start to reprogram myself. As I'm thinking about the subject of today and trying to apply this to my life, I think this is the most difficult case of what's happening in my life with this subject matter. So, yeah, any advice on that?
Firstly, thank you for sharing something that's been difficult and real for you. Secondly, when as I talk about these things, yes, I want us to apply them to the big, hard stuff. But I also want you to apply it to some easy stuff as well. You go out and you have some easy wins. You walk out of your door in the morning and you take a breath that makes you feel amazing. Maybe that's an easy win. You just start your day feeling good. Or maybe you develop a love for salad or something. Like, you give yourself some easy wins that you get to see often, and you're like, yeah, I am a great brain programmer. Then when you approach these more difficult ones, there's this part of you that's like, hey, I know I can reprogram things. So please take some easy wins as well. Now, to approach your question, there's two parts that come to mind. One is resolution with this person, how you're going to discuss it with them, what's going to happen between the two of you. I'm going to leave that all aside right now because there's so many ways that discussion and reconciliation can happen. The other part is what do you do within yourself? And same, there is so many different ways of approaching this. And I'm not going to prescribe any particular way of being. I'm going to give you some suggestions. And some of them may be very different or seemingly contradictory. So let's just see what comes out. And hopefully some of them seem like they could be what you'd want to practice. I hope this advice is helpful for everybody. I would like you to imagine, maybe it's a year from now or just somewhere distant, that everything feels okay again. This person's just a past, it's like a long distance memory. And then I would also like you to imagine, when you think about this person and what happened, all the weight of it, all the heaviness of it, it's gone. You can just think of it kind of like, oh yeah, that happened. And I'd also like you to think of yourself as, you know that your well-being and your happiness and your peace and your strength, that's more important than any other person. I'm trying to get your focus out of the tangle and into like you feeling good. Because when you're coming from that place, then when you start to think of the attitudes and the thoughts you want to have about the person or about what happened, you'll be making the attitudes that bring you peace, that empower you. If you're trying to create the attitudes from within the tangles, from within the pain, from within the reaction, there'll be probably some elements of those reactions or that hurt in the attitudes that you create. So, you might want to rehearse that you're really empowered and you can have the conversations that need to be had, and you can make that in a way that is calming enough that helps people to say what needs to be said. But whatever they say, you're strong and awesome in yourself. You might want to practice some brain programs that you live each day to the best of your ability, and you're in the present moment, and you're awesome, and you just thrive whatever's happening right now. You might want to develop some attitudes that, hey, I'm really good at letting things go. I'm really good at forgiveness. Perhaps I've upset someone in the past and didn't even notice. I hope I get better at noticing and being understanding to the people who don't. Perhaps this person noticed and doesn't even care. And wow, I'm so lucky that the people who don't care are like out of my life now, and I get to bring more good people into my life. Perhaps you'd like
I've kind of been through this, and I was trained by like a Buddhist monk to cope with that kind of grief, basically. And they taught me a few things I can remember is that try not to obsess on it, like try not to think about it too much. And then he said, build yourself up, like just focus on you, like just worry about, how you're doing in your life, focus on your daily tasks, things like that. You can't change the other person. We'll have to get to this stuff. We'll have to set it up. I'll send it to you and you can look at it. It might be useful for everybody else. I've got this big list of things that this guy taught me, and some of it reminded me of that situation.
Thanks.
Might be applicable. Mm-hmm.
Askiali, of the things I was saying so far, can you tell us one or two, or the things I said, or the things Sigma said? Can you tell us whichever stood out the most, or if none did, do you want to just respond with what's your response to what we just talked about?
Yeah, really, I don't know. I feel like kind of powerless, I guess. It's almost impossible, it seems, to be nice and kind to this person. This person is actually my father and is about to, yeah, he doesn't have a long time anymore. And yeah, it eats me that I can't be kind to him, but in the meantime, it's me. I cannot really change this really deep emotion that I feel.
All right. I think I've got something for you.
And yeah, I really want to, but yeah. I feel like he's limited, that he's doing the best that he can, and this is his way of coping with it, to just deny it and everything, yeah.
Perhaps in his world, your perspective is just so foreign to his perspective, he just doesn't even know how to comprehend it. But I don't know the details. So actually, I'm going to stick with what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I would love you to tell yourself that you are empowered. Any part of you that feels powerless, you bring your power there. You are the master of your own ship. You are the writer of your own scripts. If you were to just pretend to be lovely to him, it might feel awkward and strange, but at the end of that interaction, you would have been nice to him. Maybe if he doesn't have much time left, maybe going through and resolving this stuff, let's just say there's a possibility that it never gets resolved. But you go and have some nice moments with him anyway. Maybe that's a nice memory. Maybe you could ask yourself, hey, if I completely accept that he's stubborn and ignorant and is never going to say sorry or acknowledge it, what memories do I want to create regardless of that? But mostly I want you to think of you being empowered. What's the feelings that you want to make? What's the ways that you want to create? And when you start to notice the old feelings come up, just step back into your breath, practice going back into your peace, and keep coming from that place of, hey, I'm empowered, I'm free, what do I choose? If that sounds foreign, then I would encourage you, just forget about your dad for a while and do that breathing meditation. Practice just getting into that centered, peaceful place. From that place of freedom, you just keep practicing what it is to go to that place where your mind feels peaceful, where you could think or imagine or feel anything. And
so you said three times a day, in the morning, in the evening, I guess, before you sleep or something? And then in the middle?
Yes. So the 3 times a day is my suggestion if you've got a brain program you want to practice. So, for example, you could tell yourself, I'm empowered. I create the feelings I want. I create the conversations I want. You could visualize that and you could feel into that 3 times a day.
And
And
let's say I want to start with one.
one
Then
time.
probably in the morning. With one time, yeah.
Yeah, so I would encourage you to spend 5 minutes of breathing meditation. Not even thinking about your dad. Just being present, learning how to bring your mind into this moment. Bring peace into this moment. When your mind does something, you just come back to the breath. And then after the 5 minutes there, if you're feeling really good, then you can start the positive feeling about your dad. Well, actually, no, let's take a step back. Before you even start thinking about your dad, you do the 5 minutes of breathing, and then you spend a minute or two of like, I'm empowered. I choose to feel good. I choose to create the conversations I want. And after you've been doing that for a few days, you might want to actually breathe for 6 or 7 or 10 minutes because you're really enjoying how powerful you can make the focus. And then while you're telling yourself, I'm empowered, I choose positive feelings, I make the conversations I want, you might also want to just let yourself imagine having great conversations with your dad. But yeah, start with the way that it feels good. Empower that peace in yourself. Empower being empowered. And when you think about your own mind, when you think about what you're creating, like think, hey, I can create anything. It's my imagination. It's my mind. I can create anything. And then let yourself explore. What would it be like if I just went and was really nice to him? What would it be like if I was like, hey, I need you to acknowledge that this thing happened and I felt this way? Or, I don't know, whatever you want to explore, let yourself feel empowered that you can explore any way of being. So yeah.
I will definitely need to listen to this again. Thanks.
So yeah, I mentioned 3 times a day for a month. I'll do the 5 minutes of breathing and then the brain program of you're empowered and you can create anything you want, any conversation you want. Do that for a week or 2 and then start to make it a bit longer and include the idea of your dad.
And it's not necessarily that it bothers me in daily life, but it's more that when I see him that I fall back to this old pattern, which is like really quite strong, that it becomes almost automatic, that I just want to break this habit.
Yeah, I can relate. I've had similar things with some people.
Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah, I'm going to, one last reiteration. Your mind is wild. Your imagination is wild. I would let yourself just imagine having a great conversation with him. Forget all the details and the old reactions. Just imagine having a great conversation with him. And when you're imagining that, your feelings and your thoughts, they start to like figure stuff out. And if there's the part of you is like, I don't want to have a great conversation with him, just put that aside for just a couple minutes. Just give this a chance. And if that's like too out there from where you're at, do the breathing meditation, get into the stillness. And once you've empowered that, then you're able to imagine and create whatever you want. One of my family members used to yell at me every conversation we had. And after a while of this, I was like, hey, what on earth is going on? I'm a brain programming like champion. How on earth can I have this relationship with this person in my family? So I did the same thing I just told you. Every day I imagined that person and I having a great conversation. And I just put aside all of my attitudes and current feelings. I was like, I'm just going to create this. And for like a week I visualized it. And then a week in, my brain was like, oh, what's the point? I'll go in and not be nice. And they're just going to start screaming and shouting anyway. And I was like, hang on. Come on, brain. I'm taking myself in this direction. And blah, 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 they're going to do that. No, it's going to be good. And then as I was holding those two ideas in mind at the same time, my brain just figured out how I wanted to respond when they started yelling. Just this way of reacting came to mind. I don't need to tell you what came to my mind. I could, but the point was when I held those two, my mind knew what to do that would be awesome for them. So a couple of days later, I went and I had this conversation with them. They started yelling, seemingly out of nowhere, and I responded just as what had arose in my meditation. And they yelled even more, and they stormed away. A few days later, I tried again. I did the response that my meditation had given me the idea to, and they calmed right down, and we had a really good conversation. So I hope there's a bunch of food for thought there. Practicing stillness of the mind, affirming and rehearsing that you're empowered, and visualizing the kind of conversation you would just like to have. All baggage aside, just what would you like it to be? And let yourself have a chance to create that. Please come back with any follow-up questions next week or any time. I hope that's enough food for thought for now.
Yes.
Thanks for asking such a vulnerable question. Anyone else? All right. Somebody wrote in one of the chats, how do you continue to be awesome? How do you thrive in your well-being, in your fitness, in your health, in the routines of the house? How do you take that goodness into the different parts of your life? And maybe all the things I just said, you're great. But then you might have some other parts of your life where you're like, hey, how do I bring that goodness into those parts? So how do we infuse awesomeness into all the parts where we see that it's needed? If you were mindful in every moment, if you were just watching your thought and your attitude all the time, then you would just bring the most powerful, decisive, clear thought all the time. Yes, that's the ultimate goal. I want you to be enlightened and mindful. But I know that's a big call. I know that's far out for most of us. So that's something I want us to head towards, is this mindfulness to bring awesomeness just through our sheer force of consciousness. But how can we bootstrap that a little bit? How can we give that a kickstart? And I kind of want to say what we were saying before about brain programming, saying to yourself, I'm empowered, I'm happy, I love to exercise, I eat well, I feel great, I feel wonderful wherever I go. But, just saying those things, it's good and it's helpful. But to really bring some oomph to it, to make it have the power that we want to really impact ourselves, it can be a game to find the ways that pump your mind up. Maybe dancing to music that you love and then doing your positive brain programming will let your mind dance and be more empowered. Maybe going for a really long swim and then you do your positive thinking while the adrenaline's pumping through your body. Or going for a run up a mountain and doing your positive thinking while things are epic. Maybe laughing for half an hour. Put on something you find funny and just laugh as hard as you can. And then when you're full of hilariousness, then start doing your visualization. Maybe you've got some friends who love to hug. Go and get an hour of hugs so your brain's just swimming in oxytocin. And then do your positive visualizations. As much as possible, do your rehearsal of being awesome and make it fun and wonderful and awesome. I hope you can get your meditation and your imagination so good that while you rehearse the idea of feeling good, you're like, I love feeling good, and it's easy and it's natural and I love it, it feels good. I really want every one of you to get to that point where what you choose to rehearse feels amazing and you create that it feels natural and that it is natural, and you create the attitudes of yes, this is how I am. I definitely want you to practice every day so you become awesome brain engineers. And if you need to bootstrap that by dancing first, or hugging first, or putting on music that you love, or going somewhere that's awesome, or going to the most glitzy, glamorous street in your town while you're just surrounded by Ferraris, or going and sitting in a field of flowers, or whatever tickles your soul, go and get into that place where you're wow, and then channel that wow into yourself. Maybe the wow would be imagining looking back in 10 or 20 years from now and being wow, I did something really beautiful there. And it wasn't just great for me and him. It's something really nice that we now have in our family. Shortly after I started running these VR sessions, I found out that my dad had really bad cancer. It was all through his whole body. It was the middle of the COVID lockdowns. They weren't going to let me back into Australia to see him. All I had was some video calls. He was sick enough that it was hard to have long conversations. And there was a lot of things, life choices he'd made, that had made us very separate. I have kids now, and the last few years I'd been excited that at some point we were going to go back and visit him, and it was going to be nice. and then I'm suddenly hit with like he's going to die in a month. And I just chose to put all of those disagreements aside and just love him. Just call him up and say thanks for things and ask him stories. Try and see sides of him I never knew. And just have a good time with him. And that month was so heart soothing and enriching. I still feel transformed by it. You know, the years of division that I kind of sort of carried around, that's gone now. Whenever I think about the part of my brain about my dad, now all I have is like the care and appreciation that we focused on at the end. And similarly, I also rewrote my memory about the kids in school and how they treated me, and like other things that have happened. As you change your perspective, it changes how you feel and how you understand other people and how you feel. So it's almost time for our closing meditation. Does anyone have any last minute questions or something you really have to share? Any requests?
That must have been really hard with your father. Sorry to hear about that. First thing, and the second thing is that was you gonna say something?
After you.
Somebody broke into my house and stole like £1,000 laptop. And then I seen him down an alleyway next to a supermarket, like hanging out with like junkies and everything, and it hit me like, before all the time leading up to this moment, I felt like if I ever see him, I'd want revenge or something bad's gonna happen to them or whatever. And then I see how pathetic and down they was, and I thought nothing but sorry for that person. Like, it kind of calmed me, and I just forgot about it. Like, I just looked how bad this person's life was, and I just let it go, man. Like, just let it go, right? I kind of feel like I kind of grew up a little bit there or something, you know?
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, that perspective. That perspective shift and feeling shift, how it can not just change that one thing, but kind of change how you feel about yourself. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of a nice way to feel about it, instead of just feeling bitter and revengeful, or you know, when something bad happens, actually looking at it from the other side, like, their life is so much worse than mine.
So
okay.
I was actually preparing the VR live stream for this just before he passed away. So the first live stream on the channel that's here in VR was like the day after he passed. And, you know, 2.5 decades of learning about meditation and attachment, and I'm really grateful that I actually have the mind architecture to choose how I'm going to respond to it. And I have the mindfulness to watch as other stuff comes up and like move into acceptance and move into empowerment and create the way I want to think about him and feel about him forever. So that was what I was practicing. Like, hey, how am I going to respond in a way that I'll feel great about forever? And, you know, I mentioned now I carry so much more love and appreciation. So yeah, if you wanted to check out on the YouTube channel, you can go and see that session. I think it was pretty amazing. So I hope you enjoy it.
So
I would
that
say
was
I
the
have
first
similar,
one.
similar.
I have a lot of
I have
videos.
similar issues with you and what you said, about that, and I think it's going to help me a lot to deal with my life and my parents. Thank you.
There's a lot of videos on the channel, but that's the first one that looks like it's in VR chat. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to go check it out, it's there.
I will, yeah, definitely check it.
All right, guys, it's time to start our closing meditation. I feel like putting my hands on my heart. Maybe you want to give yourself a hug. Maybe you've got a posture that you sit in that's really soothing or peaceful. I just invite everybody to find that in their body and take a really deep breath. Let's just start with the thought that there is amazing peace inside of you. There is your consciousness that's free from all habits and reactions and past baggage. It might take some focus, it might take some time to step into that part of you, but you do have that inside of you. And the more time you spend thinking about that freedom and connecting with that freedom, the more that freedom becomes your foundation. It becomes the place that you think from and that you feel from. And I want you to imagine, I want you to rehearse, I want you to become that person, that version of you that comes from that fully empowered place, that puts that wisdom and that peace and that freedom first. The synergy between watching your mind and choosing what you create in yourself. Fully empowered. I mentioned before bootstrapping your awesomeness. I hope these words of your inner core of peace, that fully empowered part of you, I hope that helps you feel bliss and strength and awesomeness beyond anything you ever imagined. I hope every time you visit these ideas, it feels better and lighter and more natural and more easy. And in any ways that you can pump that up, please do. If going to epic temples, or running up mountains, or imagining yourself as a superhero, whatever it takes to just tap into that part of you that is freedom, that is bliss, that is love, that is ease. Spend time in that part of you. Make it more beautiful, more strong, more natural. If you imagine in your brain that part of you that's peace and ease, sending out its tendrils, growing the neurons, filling your whole brain eventually with peace and ease and strength. This is my wish for you. And then I invite you to spend a minute. Just remember whatever key moments from tonight. Either things that felt good or ideas where you thought, yeah, I'm going to grow that. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to cultivate it. And just like Ali and I were talking about, being present to each moment, giving each moment to yourself as a gift. Just like in our opening meditation, trying to be fully present in the breath, I invite you to imagine every moment of your life. Just give yourself that present of awareness, of being in the present. Give yourself that present. Give yourself ease. Give yourself this peace, this strength, this love, this awesomeness. In a gentle, inspiring, beautiful way, keep practicing. Every moment, every chance you can, it's a reminder, just come back, wow. And each time you come back, it's more wow. It's more peace, it's more ease, it's more joy. Every breath, every doorway you walk through, every flower you smell, every view you look at, every hard conversation you have, make your life full of triggers that just bring you back into this peace, into this ease, into this empowerment, into this beauty. You are fully empowered. You are awesome. You're cared for. You're great. Thank you all for this time we shared. It was heart-touching and wonderful for me. And I hope also for you. I also hope that any goodness you learnt or good feelings you had, that you'll keep revisiting them. You'll keep growing them. You'll keep practicing them. In ways that are bigger and feel better than you can even imagine now. Maybe take a moment to decide that or affirm that or dedicate yourself to it. I want to see your fully empowered, blissful, compassionate, enlightened self. And the more of us that do that, the more beautiful the world becomes. Give yourself as much oomph, as much dedication, decision to that practice, to choices. Thank you for the time we shared. And Fluffy Puppy said, sorry that to leave, that to get back to some things. And Zara Rin sends good vibes and virtual hugs to all of you. And a thank you. It's my pleasure. It's lovely to have you here. So thank you, everybody. I do really mean that, to take the time to keep growing it, spend some time rehearsing the ideas, practicing that they feel natural and they feel easy and they feel wonderful. And watch your mind carefully. Watch how you make the thoughts and tweak them, frame them in a way that's as easeful as possible, that's empowering as possible, that feels great. Become a brain engineer, a brain programmer, a mental artist. Because you're awesome and you're going to get more and more awesome. So, thank you, everybody. I'm going to end the live stream now. Those of us here in VR chat, we can catch up for just a minute or two. And I hope to see you all again soon. Please share the videos with people. Watch the old ones. Write some comments. Get engaged with this. Just so much content there. Let's take those best moments and share them with people. Because I want a world where everyone's enlightened. Let's fill all our minds with enlightenment.